Welcome to my writer's room. I'm BT Higgins. Welcome to lesson 5.3. I hope you are doing well. All right, for today, I thought it would be fun to look at the first sentence or first paragraph of several different famous, really good books, things that have been recommended to me or things that I've read. And we're going to do a little bit of an analysis about how do you start your story? What makes it a good first sentence? What makes it a good first paragraph? What's the job of that first sentence and first paragraph? And so we're going to go through. I've got the first paragraph of, I think, 5 different stories, and you're going to get, and I'm just going to read them, and you're going to get a sense of each story. Honestly, if you haven't read those things, you might then say, ooh, that looks interesting. I might go read them, which is part of the job of that first sentence and that first paragraph. It's meant to draw you in. It's meant to hook you like someone would hook a fish, to pull you into the story. And that's really the main job of that first sentence. If you can't hook them in by the first paragraph, or maybe the first page if the reader is patient, you're not going to get them to read the whole book. So when we're writing that first paragraph or that first sentence, we want to immediately give some information. First, we want to let the reader know there's going to be a lot of action because things are already moving and already happening even in this first paragraph. You get a sense of motion, not the sense that soon after I get done talking about all these different sort of things, the story might commence on page 4 and then maybe later. You see, if you just are describing things that they don't care about yet, or you're having things happen that haven't been explained enough, it can be confusing and it won't hook you. But if by some little special recipe of words you manage to hook their interest with some little phrase or some little action or some little, you want to care about this character because, then you've got them. And we're going to look at some books where the writers do that very well, and maybe that'll help us figure out how to do it. Now, it's different for every person. There's no magical formula, but I definitely think there's good starts and bad starts. Okay, so let's look at some of the good starts. All right, the first one we're going to look at is from Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Very famous, sold lots of copies. Obviously, J.K. Rowling wrote it. The title of the first chapter is The Boy Who Lived. Now, obviously, The Boy Who Lived is intriguing as a hook itself. And so sometimes that chapter title can be something that hooks someone in. The Boy Who Lived, well, you would assume, well, every boy should live. What do you mean, the boy who lived? Oh, that's kind of something remarkable about a boy who lived? Well, what did he live through? Those are the little questions that your mind asks when you have a title or a first sentence that kind of hints at some intrigue or some action or some big event that either just happened or is going to happen. Okay, here's that first first sentence or two, and let's just see what it feels like. The Boy Who Lived. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal, thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. And that's where I'm going to stop it. That's just the first paragraph. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Dursley are not the main characters, right? It's about Harry Potter. But in that first paragraph, those first sentences, you already say that these people don't like things that are strange and don't like things that are mysterious. Now, by telling you that piece of information, J.K. Rowling was basically saying, in this book, there's going to be things that are strange. And in this book, there will be things that are mysterious. It was pretty subtle, but it's there. And so you already have the reader leaning forward saying, what do you mean, strange? What kind of mysterious stuff is going to happen? And honestly, those 3 hooks, The Boy Who Lived and Strange and Mysterious, are enough to get them to go to paragraph 2 and very quickly They get swept into the world, and they start caring about Harry, and they see that the Dursleys are actually horrible to him, and then you start to care about him, and before you know it, you're at the end of the book, and you're hooked. All right, let's look at the next book. Now, this is the one, The Unduantes by Lisa Mcmahon, which was recommended by one of our rabid readers a while ago. And so I thought I would take the first paragraph of this one and see what she does well with her first chance of hooking a reader. So, Unwanteds. The first chapter is called The Purge. Now, that's another title that is meant to make you wonder, Purge, what are we talking about here? Ooh, that sounds interesting. Here we go. Quote, "There was a hint of wind coming over the top of the stone walls, and through the barbed wire sky on the day Alexander Stowe was to be purged. Alex waited in the dusty commons of Quill, and felt the light breeze cooling the sweat on his upper lip. His twin brother Aaron stood beside him, their parents behind. And all around, the entire community of Quill watched and waited, the bland looks of sleeping fish on their faces." End quote. Okay, what did Lisa do here that helps to hook? Okay, first, the title, The Purge. That hooks. What does she mean? There was a hint of wind coming over the top of the stone wall, barbed wire sky. That kind of makes me seem, it seem like they're in some kind of walled kingdom or barbed wire, maybe that they're prison or something. It starts to make you wonder, wait, where are they? And then Alexander Stowe is going to be purged. What does that mean? All of the people are there, and his brother and him and his parents. It almost sounds like they're kind of at a formal meeting where a big decision is going to be made. All of these little details that are just explained very easily help hook, help intrigue, and it makes that person want to read the next paragraph, where you figure out that purged means kicked out of the society, and as far as we know on this chapter 1, it means killed. And so it's pretty serious, and I'm hooked. You see what she did there? You're adding little clues that just give the reader the flavor of excitement, the possibility of something interesting. You want your first sentence and your first paragraph to do that. You do not want your first sentence and your paragraph to be boring. You do not want it to start before the significant moments start. A lot of people, when they're writing, will begin writing and they'll be talking about the character and what they do under normal circumstances, a chapter before the real inciting incident begins. Now, let me explain what inciting incident is. There is an event that has to happen in your main character's life that changes the course of their life forever. Now, it doesn't always have to be as significant as forever, but it needs to be an incident that changes their course very significantly. I don't want my story to start 10 years before that and have to walk through 10 years of boring normal stuff. I want it to start right before or right at that inciting incident that's going to change their life. Well, for this one here in Quill, where Alex is about to learn whether he's going to be purged or not, that's the event that's going to change his life. That's that perfect moment to begin a story, because it hooks the readers right in to the action. It doesn't make them read a whole bunch of boring mumbo jumbo first. It gives them the good stuff, and then it gets going. And so that's a good job by Lisa there. Lisa Mcmahon, The Unwanteds. All right, next example. This is from Aaron Hunter, which I think is a composite for 3 different authors who work on the Warriors, Warrior Cat series, which there's a billion of them. Not literally a billion. But this one's called Warriors Into the Wild by Aaron Hunter. I just took the first paragraph of the prologue. Now, that's not officially chapter 1, but it is the first thing you would read, and so it needs to have the hooks to get someone to read on. All right, here we go. Quote, "A half moon glowed on smooth granite boulders, turning them silver. The silence was broken only by the ripple of water from the swift black river and the whisper of trees in the forest beyond. There was a stirring in the shadows, and from all around lithe dark shapes crept stealthily over the rocks. Unsheathed claw glinted in the moonlight." That might be claws. I might have mistyped that. Sorry. "Wary eyes flashed like amber. And then, as if on a signal, the creatures leaped at each other. Suddenly, the rocks were alive with wrestling, screeching cats." Boom. There it goes. It's the beginning of a battle. It sets the scene only enough so you know where it is. It's at nighttime. You got a half moon glow, turning the rocks silver. There's silence in the forest. You got rippling water, and you got whispering trees, and all of a sudden the claws unsheathe, and the attack happens. It's a good hook. It's a good beginning to a story, and also you learn that you're going to be dealing with cats, as if you weren't able to tell that from the illustration that had a big cat on the front. So there we go. Good hooks. You want your first paragraphs to be like that. Now that doesn't mean there needs to be a battle. Doesn't need there to be that there has to be a certain kind of tension. It just means something important has to happen that will change your character's life. That's important. Okay. Next one, Five Kingdoms Sky Raiders, written by Brandon Mull. First chapter is called Halloween. This is an example of one. It doesn't start with the battle, but it starts with a key friendship and a little bit of the humor, as you'll see. Okay. Weaving down the hall, Cole avoided a ninja, a witch, a pirate, and a zombie bride. He paused when a sad clown in a trench coat and a fedora waved at him. "Dalton?" His friend nodded and smiled, which looked weird since his mouth was painted into a frown. "I wondered if you'd recognize me." End of quote. All right, you see what he did there? Okay, first, the idea that you're weaving down the hall and avoiding a ninja and a witch, a pirate, and a zombie bride. Now, obviously, that's Halloween costumes, right? But the way it reads is first that you think you're getting around the actual things, and then you realize it's almost a joke because it's Halloween and everyone's dressed up, and why would he be so close to so many people? Oh, he's probably at school. And then he sees a sad clown, and he recognizes them. Now, Dalton is an important character, as is Cole, and so this one serves up a sense of the humor and a sense of the important friendship that's going to play a role later as it keeps going. So it's a good way to begin because it makes your imagination immediately light up. What do you mean he's trying to avoid a ninja, a witch, a pirate, and a zombie bride? What are we dealing with here? And then you get the image of all these Halloween costumes. Okay? All right, let's look at the next one. This is from Aragon, written by Christopher Paolini. In the prologue, Shade of Fear, which is a good title. If you've read the book, a shade is actually a very dangerous creature in the story, but when it also has the meaning of, there's a little bit of fear. A Shade of Fear is a good title because it has two ways of reading it. Okay? All right, here we go. Wind howled through the night, carrying a scent that would change the world. A tall shade lifted his head and sniffed the air. He looked human except for his crimson hair and maroon eyes. He blinked in surprise. The message had been correct. They were here. Or was it a trap? He weighed the odds and then said, "Spread out, hide behind trees and bushes, stop whatever is coming, or die." End of quote. Okay, now this is a different kind of story from the other ones. This is a fantasy story, and we start here with one of the bad guys, and something's going to happen to one of the good guys. But you immediately get this look at this creature who is human, except that his hair is red and his eyes are red, which kind of gives you the sense that, ooh, it's an evil character. And then, of course, he tells his soldiers, or doesn't really say, just those around him, Stop whoever is coming or die. So suddenly the stakes are high. What do you mean, or die? That sounds pretty crazy. And so it begins. You see how that hooks you in? That's what a first paragraph or a first sentence should do. All right, I think I've got one more. Might be a little long, but it's good to get lots of examples. This is from Artemis Fowl by Owen Colfer. Quote, how does one describe Artemis Fowl? Various psychiatrists have tried and failed. The main problem is Artemis's own intelligence. He bamboozles every test thrown at him. He has puzzled the greatest medical minds and sent many of them gibbering to their own hospitals. There is no doubt that Artemis is a child prodigy. But why does someone of such brilliance dedicate himself to criminal activities? This is a question that can be answered by only one person, and he delights in not talking. End of quote. All right. What I like about Artemis Fowl, or I guess Owen Colfer, is that he's got a good sense of humor. And I can already get a flavor of that sense of humor just as he's describing his character. And I think he does a really good job of kind of setting up the key points. Okay, first, Artemis Fowl is hard to understand because he's so smart that he can bamboozle all the tests thrown at him. Well, now, I'm not that smart, and so the idea of being able to bamboozle a whole bunch of doctors trying to figure me out, well, that already kind of, makes me think, ooh, that'd be cool to be that smart. He's a child prodigy. Well, I definitely am not a prodigy of any kind. Ooh, this might be interesting. A super brilliant guy. Wait a minute, but he does criminal activities? Well, why would he do that? And he delights in not talking about that. You see, what Owen did here is 3 or 4 hooks all set in at once with some good humor and some kind of jokiness. It kind of sets up the whole tone of the book, and it sets up the character, and kind of gets us going. I think he does a good job on this first paragraph. Now, I've read 5 or 6 of these. I don't know if every one of them is your exact thing, but they all do a good job of hooking the reader and getting the reader to read on. As writers, that's what we want to do. So here's your job. I want you to go look at the beginnings of some of your favorite books, read those first sentences, paragraphs, and maybe first page, and see how do they begin their story. And then I want you to start playing with this first sentence, first paragraph, hooking of your reader. All right, have fun.